Ever feel like just when you think you've got things figured out, life throws a curveball your way? Like you're skating along, feeling good, then bam, something unexpected rocks your world.
It's that feeling of, I thought I had this handled.
Exactly. And it gets you thinking about resilience, right? How do we handle those curveballs? Well, you've been diving deep into the whole resilience thing lately, and today we're taking it up a notch, exploring this fascinating idea of strength versus anti-fragility.
It's a distinction that can really change how you approach challenges.
I'm ready for that perspective shift. So from my research so far, it seems like strength is that solid foundation we build. It's the athlete pushing through muscle fatigue for one more rep, the entrepreneur bouncing back from rejection to land a deal. It's that ability to withstand pressure and keep going.
You've got it. Strength equips us to handle those storms life throws our way. But anti-fragility, and this term comes from Nassim Taleb, it's about more than just weathering the storm. It's about actually benefiting from it, coming out stronger on the other side. Imagine a Thanksgiving turkey, right? Every day, the farmer feeds it, keeps it safe and comfortable. The turkey thinks, life is good. These humans are all right.
Oh no, I think I see where this is going. Poor naive turkey.
And then Thanksgiving arrives, that sudden, unexpected event. That's what Taleb calls a black swan. It totally shatters the turkey's understanding of how the world works. And we all have those moments, right? The job we thought was secure, the relationship that felt unshakable.
Those black swan events really expose the fragility of what we thought was stable. Okay, I'm suddenly feeling a lot less like that naive turkey and more aware of those potential blind spots in my own life.
It's a humbling realization, for sure. And Taleb doesn't stop there. He points out how this black swan blindness shows up in other ways, too.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, there's confirmation bias. We tend to favor information that confirms what we already believe, even if it's not the whole picture.
Oh, I'm so guilty of that.
Yeah.
Like, I'll read one negative restaurant review online and suddenly I'm convinced the place is terrible, even if there are tons of positive reviews.
Exactly. Or the narrative fallacy. We love a good story, so we latch on to compelling narratives, even if the statistics paint a different picture. Ever have that friend who invests in a company because they heard an inspiring story about the founder, completely ignoring the company's shaky financials?
Ouch, yeah, been there. Okay, what else?
Well, silent evidence can really trip us up. We often only hear from those who survived a certain experience, not from those who didn't, creating a skewed perspective. It's like we hear all about lottery winners, but not the millions who played and lost.
It's like that saying, history is written by the victors. Okay, this is already giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But how does this all tie back to strength versus anti-fragility?
Well, Taleb argues that these biases often lead us astray, especially in a world where unexpected events can have a huge impact. He calls this extremistan as opposed to mediocristan.
Mediocristan and extremistan.
Yeah.
Sounds like some kind of fantasy epic.
Right, but they illustrate an important point. Mediocristan is the realm of averages. Think height, weight things tend to cluster around a predictable mean. But extremistan, that's where those black swans have a disproportionate impact. Think wealth distribution. You take the average wealth of, say, 100 people, then you add someone like Elon Musk to the mix, and suddenly that average explodes. One outlier changes everything.
Okay, so how do we even begin to prepare for extremistan, this world where the unexpected isn't just possible, but almost inevitable?
That's where understanding both strength and anti-fragility becomes crucial. And that's what we'll explore in part 2 of this deep dive.
So we're talking about extremistan, this wild world where unexpected events can totally rewrite the rules. It's a little intimidating when you put it like that. How do we even begin to prepare for that, for those black swan moments that can throw us completely off course?
It's about embracing both strength and anti-fragility.
Okay, I like where this is going. So how do we build that strength, that inner resilience to weather those storms? What are some practical things we can do?
Well, routines can be a game changer.
Routines, really?
Think about it. Every time you stick to that morning workout, even if it's just for 10 minutes, you're reinforcing that inner discipline, that ability to show up for yourself even when you don't feel like it.
It's like building muscle memory, but not just physically, it's like mentally, emotionally too, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about creating those routines, but also about pushing yourself just a little beyond your comfort zone.
So we're talking pushing boundaries, but not to the point of burnout.
Right. That's key. Strength without self-care is like trying to run a marathon without refueling. Eventually, you hit a wall. Building in those moments of rest, prioritizing sleep, nourishing your body with good food, those are all crucial parts of building sustainable strength.
So we're building that strong foundation through routines,
Yeah.
pushing our limits safely, And prioritizing self-care.
Got it. What about anti-fragility? How do we become more like that adaptable, resilient, the house that could withstand the earthquake?
Exactly. Anti-fragility is about making that house dynamic.
So more like bamboo that bends with the wind rather than a rigid oak that could snap under pressure.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
One powerful way to cultivate anti-fragility is to embrace variability.
Variability. Okay, tell me more about that. Instead of the same workout every day, mix it up. Try a dance class, go for a hike. Add some weights. By keeping your body guessing, you're forcing it to adapt and become more resilient.
I love that. Our bodies thrive on a bit of variety, but this concept applies beyond physical resilience too, right?
Absolutely. Think about your career, for example. Developing a diverse skill set makes you more adaptable to the ever-changing job market. Imagine you're fluent in multiple programming languages. Even if one becomes obsolete, you've got others to fall back on.
Instead of being a specialist in one area, it's about becoming multi-passionate, a jack of all trades, ready to adapt.
You got it. And here's another key to anti-fragility: embracing failure.
Wait, embrace failure. That sounds counterintuitive.
I'm not saying go out and seek failure, but shift your perspective on it. Our brains are hardwired to avoid failure, but if you can view those inevitable stumbles as feedback, as opportunities to learn and adjust your course, that's where the magic happens.
So instead of letting those failures define us, we use them as stepping stones.
Exactly. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Obviously, we don't want to be in life or death situations all the time, but you get the point. It's about reframing challenges as opportunities.
I do. This whole conversation is making me think about those mental models we talk about. Are there any that particularly lend themselves to this journey towards strength and anti-fragility?
Absolutely. The growth mindset, for one. It's the belief that your abilities aren't fixed, but can be developed through effort and dedication.
Instead of, I'm not good at this, it's, I'm not good at this yet.
Right. You got it. That yet opens up a world of possibility. Another helpful model is stoicism, especially when navigating those curveballs life throws our way.
Stoicism. Remind me about that one again.
It's about focusing on what you can control, accepting what you can't, and finding peace amidst chaos. It reminds me of that serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
It's about accepting that we can't control everything, but we can control our responses. I like it. What else?
Finally, there's the concept of optionality. It's all about keeping your options open, creating multiple paths towards your goals. It's having a plan A, B, C, and maybe even a secret escape route if things go totally sideways.
It's not putting all your eggs in one basket, but having a diverse portfolio of skills, experiences, even relationships, right?
Exactly. Optionality gives you the flexibility to adapt to whatever life throws your way, to pivot when needed, and to capitalize on those unexpected opportunities.
Okay, I'm loving all of this. Cultivating a growth mindset, practicing stoic acceptance, embracing optionality, those feel like powerful tools for navigating an uncertain world. But how do we actually translate all of this into our everyday lives? How do these concepts play out in our relationships, our health, our careers? I feel like we need some concrete examples.
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into in the final part of this deep dive. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've been talking about strength, anti-fragility, all these amazing concepts, but how do we actually apply all of this to our everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Because knowledge without action, it's like, well...
It's like having a fully loaded toolbox, but no idea how to actually use any of the tools.
Exactly. So let's get practical. Let's start with relationships.
Makes sense. Relationships, they're probably one of those places where we experience the full spectrum of strength and fragility.
Right.
Like they can lift us up, give us this incredible sense of support, but they can also be,
a source of intense stress and heartache.
guess the one.
It's about approaching relationships with that anti-fragile mindset we've been talking about.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice? Give me an example.
Well, instead of shying away from conflict, imagine a couple who actually leans into disagreements. Not in a confrontational way, but as an opportunity to understand each other better, to strengthen the relationship. That kind of vulnerability can be scary, but it can also deepen the bond in a way that just wouldn't be possible otherwise.
It's like they say, the strongest relationships aren't the ones that are always happy, but the ones that weather those storms together.
Exactly. And speaking of weathering storms, let's shift gears to health for a minute. We often equate physical strength with pushing through pain, ignoring our limits. But anti-fragility in the context of health, it takes on a slightly different meaning.
So it's less about going from 0 to 60 overnight and more about what strategically challenging our bodies to adapt and grow stronger over time.
You got it. Think about something like high-intensity interval training. You're pushing yourself for those short bursts, but then allowing for recovery, right? Or experimenting with different types of exercise, mixing things up, yoga one day, weights the next, even just exploring a new hiking trail. It keeps your body guessing, which ultimately makes it more resilient.
It's about finding that sweet spot between pushing our limits and respecting our body's need for recovery.
Absolutely. And that same principle applies to our careers, especially in today's world where everything's changing so fast. Imagine someone loses their job, right? Devastating situation. But instead of panicking, they leverage their network, they learn new skills, they're proactive, and they end up landing an even better opportunity.
So it's less about clinging to job security, which, let's face it, is kind of an illusion these days, and more about building a career that's adaptable, versatile, anti-fragile even.
Exactly. It's about becoming what some people call future-proof, constantly learning, evolving, being ready to pivot when needed. And this applies not just to individuals, but to businesses too.
Right. It's the companies that embrace, change, experiment, learn from their mistakes. They're the ones that thrive in the long run.
They're not afraid to fail fast and adapt quickly. They get that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's a stepping stone to it.
This whole conversation has been a real mind shift for me. I came in feeling kind of overwhelmed by all the uncertainty in the world, and now I'm feeling almost empowered by it. Like maybe discomfort isn't something to be avoided, but a signal that we're on the right track, that we're growing.
It's about changing our relationship with discomfort, embracing it as a signpost pointing us towards growth, towards a more resilient version of ourselves.
Love that. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Just this. Embrace the unknown, challenge your assumptions, and remember, the greatest growth often happens when we step outside our comfort zone.
Words to live by. And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to cultivate both strength and anti-fragility in your own lives. Because when you combine a solid foundation with the ability to adapt and grow, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Until next time.